It's all mindset. There's challenges are hard, but if we look at them and then direct our energy to where we can have some semblance of understanding or control or whatever it is that you need to feel safe, then you can do anything.
Welcome to Project Tumbleweed, a real-time documentary about life in America during a pandemic. My name is Scott Henderson, aka Scotty Hendo, and I'll be your guide. COVID-19 has turned life upside down and exposed old, unhealed wounds. It's becoming apparent that we have a long ways to go before we get through this. I'm traveling the country to meet with people of all stripes to learn how they're adjusting to these new realities, so that you can learn lessons to apply to your own life. In this episode, we turn our journey eastward, following in the footsteps of the Lewis and Clark expedition as we travel from Washington State all the way to South Dakota. Along the way, we're going to meet a downtown association leader, student volunteer, tourism director, creative entrepreneur, artist, and children's museum marketeer. U.S. President Thomas Jefferson instructed the Lewis and Clark expedition to find a route to the Pacific Ocean by traveling up the Missouri River. Armed with scientific instruments, they documented their findings to pave the way for others to follow. My modern-day journey took about 6 days of travel, crossing Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. This was a vast stretch of landscape and included several different Native American tribal homelands and present-day reservations. It was because of the help from the indigenous tribes they encountered that the Lewis and Clark expedition survived. They needed their help to deal with many unexpected challenges that surfaced along the way, and they chose to keep going regardless of the setbacks. If we listen closely enough, we might just hear that spirit echo on today.
The organization that I'm actually have the pleasure to work for, and I have a great team, is called DPDA, which stands for Downtown Pasco Development Authority. What the organization does is incredible. That's the reason why I came to Pasco, because the organization is a hybrid model that I have never seen anywhere. And I look for these things sometimes and see what will be my next career move, am I right? This organization runs with federal money, which is a CDBG grant, but also runs with state money through the Main Street program. Specifically, 90% of the business owners are Latino or Hispanic. They different backgrounds, different places. So we use some of the donations from that money to actually create a campaign awareness that is actually called Ponte la Máscara, put on the mask. So we invite wrestlers, Mexican luchadores wrestlers, to come over here to downtown Pasco and promote it with us. We have t-shirts made. We did an online event, which it was still probably in Facebook. This is the clothes that I wear. This is the first time I actually have a different set of clothes. For the last 3 or 4 months, I only been wearing 2 sets of clothes. So I go back home, I wash everything, take my shower before I even talk to my kids, anything, like everything wash, my face mask, everything. 44, I'm gonna turn 45 soon, and I lived through a lot of stuff. As an immigrant, as a poor kid, as a homeless at times, and different kinds of homelessness, am I right? And here I've been challenged just for being Latino or Hispanic in some areas, through the systems. But 2020, it's insane because it totally changed the dynamic of who is being oppressed, because suddenly we all being oppressed.
I was born with a disability called cerebral palsy, and that basically just means that my brain doesn't always communicate with my body. We're just like you guys, we just have to do things a little differently. I volunteer at 2 local elementary schools, and I help out in a kindergarten classroom, and then I do reading tutoring for 1st and 2nd graders. My biggest challenge is that I've had trouble getting good caregiver coverage, good medical care for my legs, and proper exercise. Right after I went swimming one day, they said, our governor said, oh, there's no school for the rest of the year, and that's when I knew it was real. It feels very strange, but it also feels like this is the new normal, because by now we're all used to it and we know how to deal with it. Just stay home, stay safe, and wear a mask.
Well, Well, I'm the director of Destination Missoula and the Missoula Tourism Business Improvement District. The moment that COVID became real to me, there are probably two moments if I can do that. The first one was when I actually moved my whole staff out of the offices and home. The second time was when it became very personal, and dear friends of ours came down with COVID, and my daughter had been exposed, and she was living with me at the time. And so the two of us then had to go into total quarantine, which we already were anyway, but it was different. You know, you start taking your temperature every day, and you start all of a sudden, normal things that happen, like you wake up and you have a headache, all of a sudden have that impact of, oh wow, maybe it's something more than that. And I think then it became really, really personal. We exist because of our accommodations tax. That's how our organization is funded. And so when you have no one coming in, you have no idea what your income is going to be down the road. So we cut our budgets as much as we could in anticipation of what could be coming, and kind of went to worst case scenarios. And in doing that, we made the really hard decision to furlough 3 of the staff. The need to completely think in a different way and how to lead an organization and make sure that I am taking care of the people who trust me, who we employ, and making sure that they're all right. I believe that we will find a way through what we are in right now. This isn't going to last forever. I believe that the American people will be better coming out of this. I really do. I think that we will deal with some of the demons that we need to deal with as a society, and we will be better because of it. We'll be better.
So I actually have 4 businesses. I started a photography business in early college, so I'm a wedding and senior portrait photographer. And then I studied graphic design in college, so I'm a visual brand designer. I help businesses develop that brand identity. I started Makewell in 2017, which is a community for makers, so I kind of wear that community builder role in that. And then more recently, I developed my first product. It's a planner. And so now I'm a product creator and entrepreneur. I feel like the biggest challenge is the uncertainty component. I'm such a planner, I'm type A, I'm organized. And as a business owner, to a degree, you need that naturally. You need to think 6 months out. So for Makewell, that's probably been the largest challenge, is we have a lot of in-person gatherings. And so not only is it the uncertainty of, you know, how large can it be? What do we need to do to keep everyone safe? But also the responsibility of, I don't want to plan an event and then have someone get sick and then everyone's sick. You know, like I take on a responsibility with that. And so that's a challenge, especially with the creative community. We do have world-class makers here. I think because our states aren't necessarily talked about or in the news as much, we kind of get forgotten and people wonder if we even have internet. But I promise you, we have internet, and we have some seriously amazing people that work and live here.
I'm a ceramicist, so every day I get to come to the studio and make pottery. This is my office. People think it's a hobby, it's fun, that, oh, she just quit her job and started making art the next day and making a living. Anybody can do that. And it's not that at all. It's hard work, it's long hours. Coming up with a new pot, it's a lot of thinking, a lot of design, a lot of trial and errors. I would say I have more fails than successes just in my art alone. My biggest challenge throughout the pandemic has been staying motivated. I've really struggled with shutting down. I would kick in production full gear because I knew I had a show a month out, or you know, I had this huge show coming up I was so excited for and waiting for it to be announced that it wasn't happening, and there were a lot of setbacks, a lot of mental setbacks. There's a sign that I look at every day through my window while I throw pottery, and it's on an old apartment building, and I'm looking at it right now. It says, "For sale," with another kind of makeshift sign that says door blocked and a sign below that that says warning, do not, this is not an exit or this is not an entrance. And seeing that every day really got to me. I'm going on my 3rd year as a small business owner, and things were going great. I was having so many opportunities pop up, and looking at my books, my numbers looked great. And I had projected that 2020 was going to be this amazing year. Subconsciously, I didn't realize it until a few weeks ago, and it seemed this year started out and there was a block every step of the way. And when you plan for something to be so wonderful, it's been tough, especially when my daily life hasn't changed that much.
I just think of the words that seem to speak to me this year. This is like resilience, perseverance, empathy, space. We're located in the heart of downtown Brookings in a old elementary school building. We're 44,000 square feet of fun. I like to say it's a playhouse for children. So everything is built at their level. Everything is meant to be interactive. Everything is a place for them to grow and explore. It's kind of a yes place. I vividly remember being up in my office at work and watching as places shut down. I mean, since we're in the center of the country, we see things maybe a little bit later than the rest of the country, but determining whether, just kind of fact-finding, figuring out what information we had available to us, information that was valid and from a good source, and then deciding what we needed to do. I remember almost wanting to be done that day, or could you wait a few days and see if things changed? You just didn't know. Things changed hourly at that time. One of the first things I remember when we first shut down is I feel like within a week or two, we were on a call with the Children's Museum of Hong Kong, and they were in the process of reopening. And you know, the culture there is obviously different. Face coverings were very normal for them. So they had all of this, what you had to do to walk into their building, and it was temp checks, and you had to walk on a sticky mat, and you had to wear a face covering, and we're kind of looking around like, I don't know if we can do that. Like, would people come if we did those things? In the result of this pandemic, I'm like, well, I'm at my house, I have food, I have people around me, I have ways to communicate with the world. It could be worse.
So right now, I think we're going through a storm, but I've been to many storms, and so there's probably many people who are seeing or watching this. So I think it's just one of those storms. We just have to hopefully survive it, endure it and survive it. And after that, we'll probably see the light again.
Be open to change. It's frustrating and it's hard. It's inconvenient. It causes a ton of stress and anxiety, but that's life. You know, we have to take it one day at a time, and we just have to do whatever we can to learn and to grow and to be open to new information.
Live through uplifting others. That's how I've gotten through all of this, is not by people crushing me and wanting to get ahead of me, but by all of us sticking together and uplifting each other.
Life finds a way. You and I inherited an unbroken lineage of survival through millennia filled with hardships, disease, and violence. Despite all these seemingly insurmountable odds, we stand here today. Resilience is rooted in finding a way to survive by first accepting the realities of whatever limitations you encounter, then drawing from your inner strengths and reaching out to those around you to overcome these obstacles. What these conversations illustrated to me is that we have the choice to be resilient and face what the pandemic has laid bare. Can you hear those lessons from the distant and near past echoing in your heart today? I can, and I hope you can too. That brings us to the end of this episode. In the show notes below, you can find links to the full-length rough-cut interviews of everyone featured here. There's a treasure trove of insights for you to discover. If you like this episode, please leave a comment and share the link with your friends.